Hey there. This is going to be hopefully a quick hangout, and it's going to be about Antarctica because I just saw a video that I thought was pretty interesting. The one I got up here on the screen right now is from Taboo's Conspiracy that had one that Antarctica, sorry, we're closed. And this is about the legal hurdles of getting to Antarctica that a lot of people have been talking about. There's a link in the chat. And I was just looking around at other videos today. This from Taboo was April 12th of this year, but I found one called The Real Secrets Hidden in Antarctica Revealed from April 8th, 2017. So almost exactly a year before. Hey, Mark. And here's the link for that one. And I just finished watching it. It's 44 minutes, 33 seconds. But it goes into all the political things and Admiral Byrd and all these things. But it got really interesting around the part where it starts talking about JFK. I think that was around maybe not quite that mark, a little bit later than that. And the interesting thing was that a couple of days after his assassination, hey, Chow, they buried, there were some little stories in the newspaper that were buried that were about Antarctica and the treaty and all those sorts of things. And, that had been already in place in 57, 58. And Kennedy was assassinated in, let's see, 62, 64. Man, I'm losing track of things. I think it might have been, no, it was 60, 60 something. Anyway, talked about other interesting things that were going on, especially when it came down to weather control. And that a lot of underground bases were made there, which surprises nobody, but there could be a large potential for world weather control there, regardless, not an Earth-shaped video, but regardless, you could control the world's weather from there, and that's why they were doing some nuclear testing, so-called, whatever it is, that, okay, 63, thanks, that was designed to, it created some kind of unnatural aurora australis, because it's south, and borealis would be north, but that they did something, they were testing the atmosphere, trying to do something to it, and determined that there's weather control potential there. And in addition to that, also is something like 60% of the world's fresh water supply. So there's a vested interest in two major things with controlling Antarctica by international agreement, having to do with controlling absolutely all life on Earth, because they would control the fresh water. They could pollute the whole rest of the world and make people pay for fresh water, or they can control the weather and make, droughts and deluges as they see fit, when I think they've been monkeying around with that in the last couple of decades at least. And you remember those U.S. Navy maps? Let me see if I can go find one real quick. Let's see. And the future maps. Oops, let's spell it right. This is totally unplanned, so sorry about that. But the future maps, you can see, I think it's big enough you get the idea of these maps that someday, we would assume through earthquakes and volcanoes and all sorts of things that this would be the aftermath. The U.S. would be split kind of in thirds, where the Mississippi River is where the New Madrid fault line is, basically, and it would cut off the east from the rest of the country, but the western coast would be inundated, by the same whatever event. And there are variations on it, on what the scenario would be. Well, why does the Navy do that? I always wondered why these are Navy maps. Well, when you know that the U.S. Navy and Air Force are pretty much running Antarctica, and they're doing weather control, maybe this is known because it's planned. They know exactly when they're going to do something to cause a bunch of flooding. So yeah, you look at that. I've done that too. Look at that map before and go, well, I should be pretty safe. But the thing is that it may be that they made these maps because they want to know what would happen if they did certain things down there in Antarctica. You know, that they're not waiting on some ring of fire catastrophe or New Madrid or Yellowstone or any of those things. They can make those happen. They can use them as a cover story, but ultimately they can do anything they want from Antarctica, controlling the water levels, controlling magnetic fields of the Earth. And it seems to put a few puzzle pieces together, for me at least, not only with these future maps, but also with the treaty itself that I mentioned on, you know, I'll just click on one of these just to show you to you a little bit up close, but you can do that search that I did, the U.S. Navy future map. That this is, you know, a scenario that they can run. They can pull all the resources out of the world as they know it, and then, you know, they will control absolutely everything from Antarctica and sell it back to people, just the way it happens now when decent people from first world countries will send boatloads of supplies to some, you know, place like Haiti or someplace like that that's had some natural disaster, and it's stopped at the border, and either the government or whoever factions will sell the stuff to the poor at exorbitant prices. And I think they're planning that on a larger scale. But, you know, anyway, the thing is that there were, you know, that after I had watched this one recently, even though it's been around a while, I finally got around to watching the whole thing about the legal hurdles to going there. And then just today, sometimes, you know, I don't watch too many conspiracy hangouts anymore. I don't hang around in those places or even many of the Christian ones anymore. You have a little time on your hands, you go looking for anything of quality, and I happened to come upon this video. And it was really interesting. I mean, you know, they're showing you, yeah, that could be fake, but they're showing you what looks to be authentic news stories from printed news media of the time around, you know, the aftermath of World War II and on into the Kennedy era, and then, you know, a little bit, I think maybe they got into the 70s some. But the thing is, this was done, it's called Truth Stream Media. I'm not familiar with that channel, but they seem to have made a quality documentary. It's got a couple different narrators and so forth, but it was around the 32 or so minute mark where it got super interesting with the weather control and the testing and the cover stories. And it kind of just made things click in my head of a lot of other things that I've read about, like I said, the U.S. Navy map and why they would protect that area. And that there probably is a land, like Bird said, where it isn't snowy, it isn't cold, and it has a lot of natural resources, including some uranium and coal and all sorts of things. So they've got enough resources to take care of themselves down there. They don't need to be supplied. And they guard it carefully so no unauthorized people can get in and see what's really going on there. That's what that's about. It's not necessarily about Earth shape or hidden land. The only hidden land is that area, whatever you want to call it, whether it's a ring around the edge or a continent at the bottom of a ball, that doesn't matter. What matters is it's hidden, and the speculation why has been all over the place. And I think these news stories from those decades after World War II seem to just have what people call the ring of truth to them. It just seems like the most plausible story I've heard about why there would be so many legal hurdles to Antarctica and why they would be controlled by so many nations that were, while this was going on, this was all being built up, they were having all these, you know, the Vietnam and Korea and all sorts of things that have been going on ever since then as a distraction, if nothing else, and a place to play with their military toys and work things out for what they're really planning. And so then after I watched that, I've started thinking about how it gets into prophecy in the four kings, because or four kingdoms, because I've always held that the kingdom of the West would be the kingdom of the beast because it's the only kingdom not mentioned in the remaining prophecies. We have the kings of the North, South, and East, but nobody of the West. Well, the West is held to be, as far as I know, to be the kingdom of the beast because it's based on the Europe or the Roman Empire. But we've also had to deal with the fact that America is populated by people from all over the place, but still mostly Europe, at least in the past. But if America had been, as the elite have moved to Antarctica and could easily get there with their tunnels and whatever else, and that there are stories, cover stories even of UFOs and so forth that are just more distractions and layers of deception, that this could very well be also a headquarters of the kingdom of the beast. And I happened to look at, just real quick, grabbed an article on the four kings to see what other people thought about that. And they think, of course, that the West is the Roman Empire. And so, but I think everybody agrees that the West is the kingdom of the beast. The question is located where. And the fact that the U.S., especially with the pre-trib view that I hold, would be kind of messed up with so many Christians gone, and Europe wouldn't miss much from what I've seen in the messages, the message boards, the chat rooms, and the live chats. They think we're all stupid for believing in Jesus at all, and that it's an American problem, especially the pre-trib rapture being an American problem. But it could explain a lot of things, and it could be part of the cover story, not just Project Bluebeam, as people have rightly speculated, I think, for covering the rapture itself, but also this weather control, that they could do anything they want from Antarctica. It doesn't have to be HARP up in Alaska. It could be, they mentioned in this video I showed, I didn't play it, but this Antarctica video, that they could easily do that from the Antarctic, and that's why they're protecting it. But I don't know if I agree with this or not, but I also sent the link to a pillbox to you about the fact that I know Pillbox has some newspapers from the time when Kennedy was assassinated, that I would be curious if he's able to look in those and see if he sees anything about Antarctica there. Because it was shortly after that they're, some of the articles referenced in this video were mentioned. And again, that's this one, The Real Secrets Hidden in Antarctica Revealed, Truth Stream Media from April 8th, 2017. So take a look at that. And this one is just, I haven't read through this. I just am mentioning, they're taking it mostly, as it seems at a quick glance, as Daniel's succession of four kingdoms having an also, or at least, I don't know if exclusively, but picture of the future four kings. But I think they're absolutely fulfilled in the past as the succession of empires from Babylonian to Medo-Persian to Greece to Rome. There's no question that was fulfilled in those. But if there's a future connection to four directions, which is what Revelation and some of the other places talk about, like the king of the West, the kingdom of the West would be the kingdom of the beast, whether that's centered in just Western Europe or also the U.S. or Antarctica is the only reason I brought that one up. But I highly recommend this one for the weather control, the freshwater control, other natural resource control, and of course the Taboo Conspiracy one on Sorry We're Closed from April 12th of this year for the legal hurdles. So those two together, I think, make a really solid case for anybody who claims that, well, you should just be able to go there. Anybody can go there with, a few $1,000s and go see what's going on at the South Pole. That's just beyond naive, especially if you watch these two videos. So then they're not real long. This one was, let's see, 30 minutes, and this one is just under 45. So instead of, spending all evening at some chat room that they're just discussing things they discussed 3 years ago, I would recommend watching these two. It doesn't matter which one you watch first, but the point is the average person, no honest person could go there. It's just not possible. And anybody who says you can is ignorant. So let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see. I think I shouted everybody out so far. Yeah, the weather is definitely connected. Whatever they do in one place, they affect something in another. And I think that's half the reason things get so messed up, because they don't exactly know what they're doing. And if the people they have running these black ops are taken from the general population, there's a lot to be desired as far as competence goes. And they spend all these resources and time dumbing people down, and well, that's going to affect them too. So I thought this was pretty interesting, a really good video. I thought I would share that with you guys. It has almost 8 million views in a year's time. Probably deserves more, but I just thought, see if you watch these and see if you can put together, see if it makes puzzle pieces fit together to you as it did for me. Like I said, with the U.S. Navy map, with the crazy weather, with control of fresh water and other natural resources, and with what's being planned, for the end times, how this is going to be played out. So there's a lot, because, people think, well, why would they destroy themselves along with everybody else? Well, maybe they're really not, because nobody else is at the South Pole. They won't let anybody else there. So it kind of could answer some questions. And there was a guy who was heart attacked in this one video toward the end. I forget who it was. Like I said, I just watched it, and I only watched it once, but there was some guy doing something who had a heart attack in his 50s and was in good health. And they're like, thought that was suspicious, but the video is very well done. It is not conspiratorial as much as just, showing you evidence and letting you fill in the blanks. So I think it was very well done. All right. I think that's all I got. Is there anything else you wanted me to mention while I'm got this running? Because I really didn't have anything planned. I mean, I just when you watch something good, you want to share it. And this is about the best way I can get anybody's attention. So, I think I'll probably shut down. And again, if you know of any good hangouts, let me know. Let everybody know. You can always, like I said, post it under my video when it's done. And I'll see y'all later. Thanks for coming.